In 1986, Wally West would graduate from his longtime role as Kid Flash into being the Flash after the death of his mentor, Barry Allen, in the Crisis on Infinite Earths event.
In 1987, Wally subsequently got a new solo series. Early Adventures not only covered Wally easing into his role as the Flash, but he also won the lottery and got romantically involved with a married woman.
In 1992, the series would be taken in a new direction when writer Mark Waid began an 8-year run on the book.
Waid would expand on the Flash legacy by introducing new factors into Wally's life, namely fellow speedsters like Jay Garrick, Max Mercury, Jesse Kick, and Impulse. We'll touch a little bit more on them later.
Of course, Mark Waid didn't actually write today's book. Instead, we're getting the writing duo of Grant Morrison and Mark Millar. And yes, I am aware that it's spelled with an A, but it is pronounced Miller.
Miller struck up a friendship with Morrison at the age of 18 when Morrison was starting a run on Animal Man, and Miller interviewed him for a fanzine. Morrison would eventually bring Miller to the attention of DC, which paved the way to a run on Swamp Thing written by Miller.
It wouldn't be too long after this that Miller's career took off, first with a lengthy run on the Superman Adventures comic, which was based on the animated series at the time, and then followed up by a lengthy run on the Wildstorm super team, The Authority, which Miller took to new heights alongside artist Brian Hitch.
Marvel would then move on to Marvel, where he would launch a new interpretation of the Avengers called The Ultimates. He would also work on books like Wolverine and the Civil War crossover event. Miller also had several creator-owned titles like Wanted, Kick-Ass, and Kingsman: The Secret Service. You may have heard of them.
Today we're looking at Grant Morrison and Mark Millar utilizing templates laid down by Mark Waid. This is The Flash, the Human Race.
In the past, a young Wally West fiddles with a CB radio. He carries on a conversation with the crackling static, which he personifies into an imaginary friend. Jumping ahead into the present, a mysterious crash occurs in Keystone City, attracting the Flash's attention. It turns out to be an alien speedster named G-Force, who mentions some type of race before he dies. It's then that two giant aliens appear in the sky. They explain that G-Force was competing in a galactic-wide race, and the two were betting on them. Since he lost, G-Force's planet has now been destroyed. The gambling aliens then detect that Earth is plentiful of speedsters. They decree the planet must nominate the next competitor in the race, and should that racer lose, Earth will be destroyed. Though there are many viable candidates, Wally knows that he represents Earth's best chance. The night before the race is set to begin, Wally talks with Linda Park, and they plan to hopefully get everyone out of this without any planets being destroyed.
Linda Park is a TV news reporter who found herself constantly covering the Flash in Keystone City. However, after a long time, the two would eventually begin to form a relationship, with Wally's identity of the Flash being public knowledge.
The aliens give the Flash a special earpiece to keep in touch with his loved ones, and then open a portal to the starting point of the race. There, Wally meets his rival for the race. It's Crackle, the imaginary friend Wally used to talk to on the CB. Except he's not as imaginary as previously thought. The race begins with Wally and Crackle heading directly into the center of a black hole. Wally is only barely able to keep up with Crackle, leading the Flash to begin butting up against the barrier of the Speed Force, leading those on Earth to lose communication temporarily.
The Speed Force is an extra-dimensional, force that the speedsters of the DC Universe often tap into to run at great speeds without doing physical harm to their bodies or clothing or anything of that nature.
Crackle manages to come around and pull Wally free of the Speed Force. It turns out the two travel back in time and arrived in the era of the dinosaurs. After avoiding any timeline alterations, the two resume the race. Unfortunately, shortly thereafter, Wally trips and falls flat on his face. It looks like the race and the planet of Earth are over. It's then that Crackle explains to Wally how it is the two are so close together in the race. This gives Wally an idea, but he'll need the help of the entire planet Earth for it to work. It turns out that Crackle has been able to feed off the energy the citizens of his planet Quiz give off. The energy is generated by all the Quizians simultaneously running through the entirety of the planet. Wally begins to implement a similar strategy on Earth. Wally has the entire population of the planet Earth line up and issues a bet of his own. He'll race not only Crackle back to Earth, but the gambling aliens as well. If he wins, Earth will not be destroyed, though Quiz will, but Wally has a backup plan for that. The aliens agree to the bet, and the race begins, the Flash using his earpiece signal to trace the fastest route back to Earth. On Earth, everyone begins running, which gives Wally an immediate boost. Crackle then lends even more speed to Wally. Sadly, he winds up dying in the process. It's enough for the Flash to reach Earth slightly ahead of the aliens. It turns out the Flash made it to Earth so fast that the rest of the planet is moving in a snail's pace. Wally begins zipping around Earth and setting radio transmitters to frequency X, which is Quiz's frequency, where he then transmits a message. He finishes just as the gambling aliens make it to Earth. The bet lost, the aliens spare Earth and leave to destroy Quiz. However, all they destroy is an empty shell, as the Quizians followed Wally's transmission and are now on Earth. They're invisible to mostly everyone, so they won't get in the way as they settle into their new home.
Although, given that the Quizians never really appear again in the series, I guess we could just assume they found their own planet or something. Anyway, that ends the first part of this book. Now, the second part of the story does feature the Flash family a little bit more, so let's expand exactly who they are. First off, we have Jay Garrick, the Golden Age Flash of the 1940s. Now, Jay gained his super speed abilities after inhaling the vapors of irradiated hard water. And, well, Jay was an inspiration to Barry Allen, and he was also a longtime mentor to Wally West. After that, we have Max Mercury, a former cavalryman from the 1830s who got his super speed from a Native American shaman after he tried to prevent a tribal massacre. Now, Max eventually transported himself to the present, and that's why you see him interacting with the Flash and the like. I should also point out that Max Mercury originally appeared in a publisher, Quality Comics. This was really absorbed by DC, and he originally had the name Quicksilver. However, in between his appearances, the trademark of the name lapsed, and some other publisher also had a character named Quicksilver, and I don't know if you've ever heard of him.
Given that he was so long-lived, Max Mercury became the go-to repository for speedsters of the DC Universe and for knowledge of the Speed Force.
After that, we have Jessie Chambers, a.k.a. Jessie Quick, who is the daughter of another Golden Age speedster named Johnny Quick. Her father was killed by a Speed Force worshipping cult leader named Savitar. Anyway, Johnny utilized a special mathematical formula, 3xz times 94z times 4a, to tap into the Speed Force, and he naturally passed this along to his daughter. Jesse is also the head of Chambers Industries, a megacorporation in Keystone City. After that, we have Bart Allen, Impulse. Bart is the grandson of Barry Allen, who was born in the 30th century to Don Allen, Barry's son, and Melanie Thawne, a member of a rival family of speedsters.
Just how exactly Barry Allen and his wife Iris West Allen wound up having children and grandchildren so far into the future is a story we're going to have to cover in a later episode.
Bart was born so tapped into the Speed Force that he literally aged about 12 years in a 24-month period. And this caused his grandmother, Iris West Allen, to bring him back to the present to see if there could be a cure found.
Upon arriving in the present, Wally challenged Bart to a race at top speed. The strain of the race shocked Bart's metabolism into normal aging.
Obviously, with a moniker like Impulse, Bart has a bit of a rash persona, leaping into the fray before properly planning things out. He also has a bit of an attention span problem. This is why he's most notably come under the tutelage of Max Mercury. Anyway, now back to the story.
The Flash family holds a picnic for a visiting Iris West Allen. Max tries to photograph the occasion, but Bart keeps getting distracted and ruining the shot. Max manages to take the picture as a storm begins to whip up, and it ends the party. Wally makes plans to meet up with Linda later and leaves with Jay. Both Flashes work on breaking up a bank robbery, where Wally reveals to Jay that he's purchased an engagement ring and plans to propose to Linda. Competing in the race across the galaxy made Wally realize that she is the one he wants to be with. Meanwhile, Max Mercury visits with Jessie Quick with some disturbing news. The picture he took earlier has shown a strange black streak over Wally's head. Max has noticed this streak twice before, once in a picture of Barry Allen and once in a picture of Johnny Quick, shortly before both of them died.
The black streak signals the coming of the Black Flash, who is the death entity of the Speed Force. Although originally thought of as its own independent being, it turns out the role of Black Flash is a mantle passed down between various deceased speedsters.
Max and Jesse race off to stop Wally as he speeds towards his date with Linda. They stop him and explain what was happening as the black streak disappears from the picture. However, they then realize the Black Flash wasn't following Wally. It was racing him. Wally takes off to save Linda. He starts to see her as he gets closer, but unfortunately he's a little too slow. When he comes to a stop in a lightning flash, all that remains of Linda Park is a smoldering pile of ashes. Linda's funeral is held with several Justice League members, the Flash family, and even a few of the Rogues Gallery, that's the Flash's villains, appearing to lend support. However, it provides a little comfort to Wally, as Linda's parents find the fact that so many attendees are in costume to be a little crass. Weeks go by, and Wally accepts a teaching position at a school in Edinburgh, Scotland. He also intends to give up being the Flash and begins packing his belongings. Jesse Quick stops by to chastise Wally for being selfish, only to find Wally's engagement ring and realize that she was the one being selfish. Wally goes to the airport where he gets stopped by another Flash family member. This time it's Bart. The youngster is upset that Wally is leaving without saying goodbye. Wally starts to tell Bart that he is more than welcome to visit, the super speed allowing for travel in a few minutes, but Bart then mysteriously freezes in time. Meanwhile, a meditating Max Mercury senses the cries of Linda Park in the Speed Force. He springs up and begins yelling for Wally. As this is happening, Wally makes his way through the still frozen airport. It's then that he eventually comes face to face with the Black Flash. Wally takes off trying to elude the Black Flash, even going as far as trying to disguise himself. It's only through Jay's intervention that Wally avoids being caught. Jay then locks Wally in the men's room as he and Jesse Quick try to fend off the Black Flash. Max Mercury arrives just as the Black Flash knocks Jay unconscious. It's then that Wally bursts out of the men's room and leads the Black Flash away. Better that he dies than his friends. The two begin racing so fast that they begin traveling into the future. This is all part of Wally's plan as the two head towards the end of the universe. Wally then makes a hard turn, sending the Death Spirit crashing into the end of the world where it disintegrates. Wally turns back around, but life without Linda isn't worth living. Desperately, Wally throws himself into the Speed Force in an attempt to find his love. Back on Earth, Max senses what Wally has done and explains what Wally did. There's no coming back. Wally has effectively killed himself. Bart tearfully denies Max's assertion, and the others try to comfort him. However, their mourning is short-lived as Wally returns carrying a nearly naked Linda. Linda comes to, and everyone celebrates, with Jesse returning Wally's engagement ring. Later, after visiting Linda's grave, Wally whisks her over to Paris with a change into more appropriate attire. It's there that Wally finally gets to pop the question.
Spoilers, she said yes. Anyway, that concludes The Flash, the human race. How was it? Well, on the positive side, there's some real good things about this. I really like the characterization of Wally and the Flash family. I think Morrison and Miller do have a good voice for writing them. I like the Black Flash idea. It's a great tool that would be utilized in later stories. And I think the artwork by both Pop Mahan and the late Paul Ryan is pretty darn good throughout this story. That being said, there are a few drawbacks. First and foremost, the whole first story with the great intergalactic race and the Quizians is, well, it's just pretty dull. It's not interesting. I think really DC wanted to collect the Black Flash stuff, but felt the need to have this part because it does sort of lead into the Black Flash part just a little bit. Also, this whole thing really feels padded out. I think there's about 4 issues of content that got stretched out to 6. Like, the pacing's really weird. I mean, I know I am dealing with a hero whose primary ability is running at fast speeds, but there's a lot of just running sequences in this, where it says run, 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 for a bunch of pages. Also, the Flash's Rogues Gallery is neglected. For those of you maybe really aren't aware, the Flash probably has the most underrated Rogues Gallery in all of comics. And outside of a couple of appearances in the Black Flash story, they're just not used at all. I mean, it would have been nice to see someone like Captain Cold or Heatwave or Pied Piper, just a little bit more than what we got. That's why I'm going to give the Flash, the human race, a C. And with that, let's see what we're doing next time on the Random Trade Review.
Remember, you can help support my work at patreon.com/sleepytimeforcatproductions, where you can request a trade be placed in the randomizer, aka the cardboard box.